We'll call our March 11th school committee meeting to order. Superintendent, if you could call the roll.
Mr. Begoli, Mrs. Cahill,
Present.
Ms. Campbell,
Present.
Mrs. Hubley, Mr. Leong,
Present.
Mrs. Perdios,
Present.
Mayor Koch,
Present.
Quincy High School Student Representative Sasha Najawan. Thank you for attending, and North Quincy High School Student Representative Marco Mano. Thank you both.
Would you all please stand with me? Join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We remain standing for 1 minute. We'll have a moment of silence. As we see in the news every day, we live in a troubled world, and we have a lot of men and women serving this nation to try to keep the peace. And I know there's a lot of Quincy Public School grads who serve in the military, so let's keep them in mind for a minute. Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda is open forum. Anybody for open forum? Going once, going twice? Okay, on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. The first item on the agenda is the updated 2025-2026 QPS school year calendar. As you know, due to the snowstorm in late February and the 3 additional days of school closure, the Quincy Public Schools 2025-2026 school calendar has been updated and shared with families and staff and posted on the QPS website. If there are no further weather-related closures, the last day of school for students will be Thursday, June 25th, and the last day for professional staff will be Friday, June 26th. Special thanks to the mayor and his staff, the Department of Public Works and Natural Resources, and our own QPS custodians for their assistance in clearing snow from school grounds and parking lots and streets around the city. The Joint Legislative Committee on Education will visit Quincy High School on Tuesday, March 24th for a presentation on Quincy Public Schools career and technical education programs, including teacher, student, and community business partner perspectives. 6 state senators and 6 state representatives and Joint Commission Vice Chair Representative Bruce Ayers will be attending the event, which will highlight the growth in demand for CTE programs across the state, and certainly here in Quincy, and the ongoing need for resources, and provide insight into the career readiness pathway and the programs that we provide. Tonight, we have multiple high school academic teams to be recognized for some outstanding accomplishments. The North Quincy High School Academic Decathlon team has qualified for the national finals for the 2nd year in a row. Congratulations. The team is preparing to defend their national championship from last year, with the competition being held from April 23rd through April 26th, 2026 in Garden Grove, California. The North Quincy High School Quiz Bowl team has qualified for the national competition again and will be traveling to Rosemont, Illinois in June. The team will compete in a minimum of 8 matches for a chance to win the Nationals. The North Quincy High School Junior ROTC Leadership and Academic Bowl, also known as the J-Lab Bowl, team qualified to advance to the 2026 Air Force Junior ROTC Academic Bowl Championship at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. from June 12th to June 16th, 2026. J-Lab is a national competition designed to challenge junior ROTC cadets on their knowledge of the junior ROTC curriculum, as well as high school subjects like math, science, and English. Competition for the 16 Air Force Junior ROTC Academic Bowl Championship spots was extremely competitive, and the team demonstrated outstanding academic achievement. The Quincy High School math team recently placed 5th in the regional playoffs and is qualifying for the state tournament for the first time since the team was established 4 years ago. This is a tremendous milestone and a testament to the hard work of our students and advisors. There's still more. Quincy High School's History Bowl team are New England champions. Amazing. The Quincy Varsity A team earned first place in all of New England, bringing home yet another championship plaque. In addition, in the individual History B competition, senior Eddie Giza took first place and senior Ramona Bensel took third place. Quincy Varsity A will once again compete in the national championships in Washington DC this April. And of course, we'll keep you updated on all of these amazing opportunities for our students. We, of course, wish all of our academic teams much success as they prepare for the next round of competition. So best of luck to our teams. That really is amazing. Upcoming Quincy Public Schools and City of Quincy events. Quincy Public Schools is hosting high school course selection events at each high school for incoming grade 9 students and parents. Quincy High School's event was last night, and North Quincy's High School will host theirs on Thursday, March 12th at 6 p.m. Course selection will begin with grade 8 students at their middle schools next week. So these events are an important opportunity for parents and guardians to learn more about the academic pathway options for their students. The combined Quincy-North Quincy Drama Club is presenting the musical Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, on March 13th, 14th, 20th, and 21st at 7:30 p.m. in the Quincy High School Auditorium. Tickets are available in advance on ludus.com, that's LUDUS.com, or at the door for each performance. The annual middle school citywide swimming and diving meet will be held on March 21st at 9 a.m. at the Jerf Community Center pool at the Lincoln Hancock Community School. The Virtual Parent Academy on Substance Use Prevention in partnership with Bay State Community Services will be held on Monday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. via Zoom. This was originally scheduled for February 24th, but postponed due to the snowstorm. Middle school STEM fairs will continue for the next few weeks at Southwest on March 12th at 5 p.m., at Broad Meadows Middle School on March 19th at 5:30 p.m., at Atlantic Middle School on March 26th at 5 p.m., and at Central Middle School on March 31st at 5 p.m. The city will be hosting the annual Remember the Ladies event on Saturday, March 28th at noon at Quincy High School. This year's event will recognize the nurses of the Quincy Public Schools and also honor Grace Eng Toy for their valuable contributions to the Quincy community. And finally, today, Dr. Perkins, Mr. Marani, and Mr. Antonelli and I were asked to present at the Commonwealth's Department of Early Education and Care Board meeting, along with our partner schools, about our experiences with the Commonwealth Preschool Partnership Initiative and the early implementation grant we received. We are thankful for the opportunity to present in support of the governor's proposed increase in funding for this critical initiative and the successes we have realized already with our partner schools here in Quincy. The board was very impressed with Quincy's preschool programming and very impressed by the support these programs received by the mayor, the school committee, and of course, the district. So with that, that ends the superintendent's report.
Any questions or comments for the superintendent? Good. All right. Next item on the agenda, old business, item A, Mrs. Cahill to report.
Yes, tonight we're just presenting for a vote the proposed revision to the school committee policy in regard to CTE recruitment, admissions, and retention. So required a roll call vote.
Okay, motion? Motion by Mrs. Campbell, second. Mr. Leung, superintendent, call the roll.
Mr. Begoli, Mrs. Cahill,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Hubley, Mr. Leung,
Yes.
Mrs. Perdios,
Yes.
and Mayor Koch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item B.
And
Mrs.
next
Cahill?
is establishing the school committee policy for middle school pathway exploration and policy, also needing a roll call vote.
Accept the motion, Mrs. Perdios, second by Mrs. Campbell. Mr. Mulvey.
Mr. Begoli, Mrs. Cahill,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Hubley, Mr. Leung,
Yes.
Mrs. Perdios,
Yes.
and Mayor Koch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, under new business, we have the school nutrition department update. There she is. Sarah Dufour, who does a great job, as we know, is with us to present. We do this at least once a year, right?
Once a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seems like you were just here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wiltie. That's very nice.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Sarah Dufour. I'm the School Nutrition Director here at Quincy Public Schools. This is my 10th year here. And tonight on the menu, we made some samples. If you can see here, everything's wrapped up kind of tight so you can't see what it is in your little boxes. But the first is a chicken banh mi sandwich. It's a government product, the chicken. It's pulled chicken with a soy sauce honey glaze. And the second item is a curry chicken salad wrap. The third item is a black bean chipotle veggie burger. And the final item, a little dessert, is Irish soda bread, given that it's March. So have a little treat for yourselves. So I know there's some new faces here, so I just wanted to give some information about, one, the food service program, how we make our menus, how the nutrition regulations work for us, and what we do in Quincy every day with these kids. The first slide, should have done that first, that's your menu items. The first slide is about our fresh fruit and veggie program. All of our elementary schools participate in the fresh fruit and veggie program. We've been doing this since before my time, but it has expanded since COVID. We actually have all but 2 elementary schools receiving funding, but the food service department does still run the fresh fruit and veggie program at those 2 elementary schools, which is Marymount and Richard DeCristofaro Learning Center. So this is some of the funding that you can see for the entire school year for the 2025-2026 year. It's a significant amount of money. Each school receives about $50 to $75 per student for the year for fresh fruit and veggies. The fresh fruit is packaged by our vendors or vegetables and brought to each of the elementary schools for 2 days a week, where the kids get to have a fresh fruit or a vegetable as a snack. And the kids love it. They prefer the fruit, but we do, as part of the fresh fruit and veggie regulation, have to provide vegetables, and we give them a little ranch pack too on the side. So again, just a little quick overview of the nutrition regulations, and I'll also go through some of the changes that we've had this school year. Every cafeteria has to serve 5 components. It's fruit, vegetable, a meat or a meat alternate, milk, and a grain. Every child has to have access to those 5 components, and they need to take at least 3. And 1 has to be either a fruit or a vegetable. So if you're ever walking through the cafeteria and you're wondering how the menus are made or why they look as they do, why the kids are choosing what they choose, just know that when they're getting up to the cafeteria register, they have to have on their plate 3 components, and 1 has to be either a fruit or a vegetable. Milk is not required, but encouraged. The protein is not required, but encouraged, and the grain is not required, but encouraged. So you can see from this graph, it's a little bit small, but these are the numbers that represent what a child has to have access to for the entire week. And you can see how the vegetable subgroup is pretty detailed. We can't just serve French fries Monday through Friday as your vegetable. Every day of the week represents a different vegetable. So we might have a leafy green on a Thursday, a red orange on a Tuesday, and then they can have their fries on a Friday. Grains have a certain amount that they have to access every week. Same with meat and same with the fluid milk, which is the 8-ounce containers you see. When we make our weekly menus, at the very end of the week, we have to look at the compilation of the food we serve and make sure that doesn't go over on the total calories for the week, the total sodium for the week, and the total saturated fat. And we have a computer database system that helps us with this. And then finally, this is the sodium chart you can see for both breakfast and lunch. We are in the first column that we have to keep this going up until June 30th, 2027, and then on July 1st, 2027, we have to go even lower. So they really make sure that our sodium isn't heavy. Changes for this school year, other than the sodium having to go down next year, the only big change that has happened is in January of 2026, the President signed a Whole Milk and Healthy Kids Act, and which that means that we are not required to serve whole milk. We're not required to serve 2% milk, but we can. Before that, we could not. It's been challenging because our vendors aren't able to keep up with that instant need, and we haven't had families or children asking for whole milk or 2% milk, so we always have our skim chocolate, we always have our 1%, and we are able to access those other two should we need to, and we always have our Lactaid. And this does not include the regulation for breakfast, so breakfast cannot have whole milk. I just wanted to also show you a chart. I've added to this chart each school committee meeting to show how our numbers are changing or growing through the years. And since we've been universally free, so that started right at the 2021-2022 school year. We were free during COVID, but COVID was just such a crazy time. It's just not a good year to measure. But as you can see, the years have gone on and we've gone up. And last year we were serving over 1 million meals, over 1 million lunch meals. And we haven't yet done that in my time here or the years previous. So we're busy. So the biggest change in this school year, which we're very proud of, Lincoln Hancock had a complete remodel of their elementary school kitchen. If you haven't been over there to see it, it's awesome. The graphics are great. It's very spacious, and they did such a great job. I had such great advocacy from the superintendent and Paul Hines and Walter McDonald and the mayor to be able to get this done, and the kids love it. And from there, we've been able to offer 2 to 3 meals a day, different types of meals, so the kids have options, and we are able to really hone in on some good allergy meals for the kids that need it too. Just showing you some pictures of some fun meals that we've done this year and years past. We have the one that I have the most fun with is coming up on April 1st. We make meatloaf cupcakes with mashed potato frosting as an April Fool's joke. This year it's going to be brownies because they're a little bit easier. They don't topple over the lunch tray when the kids are carrying it, but with a cherry on top and some bacon bits as sprinkles. And here's some more culinary inspirations that we've done. We really try to tap into some different cultural dishes that we know the kids like or should try based on the very multiculturally diverse group of people cooking the food and the people enjoying the food. So we've had a lot of fun with St. Patrick's Day meals and Lunar New Year meals, and Lebanese dishes, curry chicken salad as you'll try today, chicken katsu curry, Korean barbecue, chicken or beef not so fried rice, and adobo chicken, shawarma chicken, banh mi sandwiches, and different types of tacos from different parts of the world. One thing that's on the horizon that we're going to try to get done before the end of the school year, we've made a commitment to try a new pilot program at North Quincy High where we will have a vending machine in the lobby that kids can access breakfast as a grab and go. It's a refrigerated vending machine. Inside the vending machine, it's a complete meal, so the kids will have a full, nutritious, complete meal. If they don't have time to come to the cafeteria, they can run and grab it and get right to class. And it'd just be a way to get those kids that are coming in late to help build our breakfast numbers, give kids more variety. Should this be successful, we were considering even converting it into a lunch vending machine too in the afternoon, if that's possible. Our lunch lines at North are wild, as there are a lot of different places. We're trying to get 1,000 kids in and out of the cafeteria eating within an hour and a half. So having one of these vending machines away from the cafeteria might pull some kids who don't have time to get to the cafeteria or just want something quick. And we're going to see how that goes. If it is successful and the kids do like it, we will bring it to Quincy High School too. And it's linked to your POS system, so everyone's free, so it'll just connect to their child's POS system and it'll just count that as a reimbursable meal. So that's really the whole bit of the 2025-2026 school year for school nutrition, but I also brought with me the compost and food waste manager. His name is Finbar Heaslop, and he's going to sit and talk about the compost program that we have at Quincy High and North Quincy High, Broadmeadows, and Atlantic.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you today. For those who don't know me, my name is Finbar Heaslip. I'm the Food Waste Diversion Program Manager here with the Quincy Public Schools. Today, we're just going to give a brief, update on how the program's going. Last time I was here, it's when we first started the pilot program. It was a few months after we started the pilot program at Quincy High School. So from there, we've grown into so we started at Quincy High School, and we've launched at North Quincy High School, and we're in Atlantic Middle School and Broadmeadows Middle School. So now we are in all 4 schools. Oh, it's the mouse. Some of the program takeaways is that in all the 4 schools, we collect recyclable and compostable materials from the cafeteria and kitchens daily, which all went into the trash before. With that being said, we've reduced the amount of trash collected in all the schools. We collect an average of 2,500 pounds of food waste each week. We have those numbers because we've had consistent weighing at each of the schools on scales. So that's a number that we're happy with. We turn the food scraps into compost by a company called Black Earth Compost. They service us and they pick it up and they bring it to one of their Massachusetts compost locations where it supports local agriculture in farms and gardens and whatnot. So it promotes local agriculture and the environment, and it also prevents harmful greenhouse gases from being emitted into the environment, which either way, the trash would originally go to either landfills or burning, waste to energy facilities. So this is a way better way that's better for the environment to take care of our waste in the proper way. Our main thing is educating and inspiring students on the importance of sustainability. Every school that we go to, we make sure to make it fun with students, educate them, have quizzes, have games, really get them hands-on in what they're doing. So next step in the program goals is we'd like to launch the food waste separation program at the remaining 3 middle schools and to be fully operating in all 7 schools by 2027. We will be wrapping up at Broadmeadows soon. We're ironing out some details to find the next middle school. And that's a realistic goal for us, so excited to get things going.
And that is it. Any questions or comments?
Okay, any questions from the committee? Mrs. Pretios?
For the food and for being here and telling us about the program. Thank you for always trying to make it exciting and creative for the kids, even if it doesn't always go that way for them. But I appreciate all the thought and the work that go into making it healthy for them and fun. So thank you for that, as always. I was noticing on the fresh fruit and vegetable program, I see Point Webster on there. Does Southwest, is that part of that program as well, with the 5th grade there?
It's part of Point Webster because of the economic need at that school. They met the threshold, but Southwest did not. But it's because they have 5th graders that kind of push them into it. I know Southwest does too, but Point Webster is the one that qualified.
Gotcha. So 5th grade, even though it's at Southwest, it wouldn't qualify?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that question. And then you mentioned the Lincoln Hancock remodel, and I think that's not the first school that's had that remodel, right? So how many schools now have the updated kitchen facilities that can offer the different alternative meals, and how many are you still working on updating?
So Lincoln is the first.
First, okay.
RDLC was kind of separated. It had its own new building and everything like that. So they are at elementary school functioning as a full functioning kitchen. Squantum will be the next one, but we are hoping to sneak in maybe Snug Harbor. We were hoping this summer. I don't know if that's going to happen, but definitely next summer. They will be the next school.
Great.
I would love to do them all tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's funding and it takes time, and it's nice to roll them out slowly because it kind of entices the other managers and the other schools to say, hey, this is what's going to happen and this is so exciting, and the kids really like it. So it's been great.
That's great. It's great to know that that's the goal too.
Yeah.
So that's great. My kids still love the Wings and Fire.
Oh,
Wings and
good.
Fire is the favorite in my house. When it's always, they bring their lunch and then they eat Wings and Fire and their lunch from home. So there's always a good lunch day on that. And for you, Finbar, just a couple questions. Do you still use volunteers in the schools to help with the separation of the compost and the trash?
Yes, but in different forms. When we first launched, we had volunteers through the Wollaston Garden Club. However, we have a paid employee, Yulia Houghton at Quincy High School and Mike Chen at North Quincy High School. Atlantic Middle School is the first school that we've had where they fully adopted the program. I helped with them put together like a green team. I helped train the students on, on how to operate the program. And that's going to be the mold that we're going to try to stick to for the middle schools. So for students and staff to be aware of what's going on there and to operate it that way.
Okay, and you find that kids follow that if there's not like a dedicated volunteer kind of?
Yeah, it's been going very successful at Atlantic Middle School, so definitely.
That's great. And do they still do the, I know at Quincy High, they had that share table sort of thing. Do they still do that at both high schools or even at the middle schools as
Yep.
well?
Everywhere, yeah.
Everywhere?
Elementary.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Yeah, a lot of the kids, I saw one kid pound like 9 yogurts back to back to back. And it was a lot of yogurt, but it was healthy. So thank you both very much for all you put into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Leon?
Thank you both for coming in here and sharing that information with us. I know firsthand how difficult your job is. My kids' friends give me a lot of feedback on school lunches. So kudos to you for being creative and trying to expose the kids to just a wide variety of foods and, of course, looking out for their nutritional needs. My question is about the number of meals. So 1 million meals, it's very impressive. I'm wondering, first of all, are students able to get parts of a meal? And if so, how, what constitutes, how many components are needed to get that count of,
Yep.
incremented?
We only count it as a meal if there's 3 components and one has to be a fruit or a vegetable. So if they were to come through the lunch line and take a slice of pizza and say, this is my lunch, they would be told to take a carrot pack. The cheese on the pizza would be the protein, the grain of the pizza is the bread, the dough, and that carrot pack would create the full component, the 3 components they need, because that'll be the vegetable. They would not be able to qualify as a free meal. We couldn't count it
Okay.
as a free meal.
So if they go up to the line and take something, because they're required to take 3, that means they took a meal.
Yep, and so
Got
the register people are trained to make sure that they know they need a fruit or a vegetable. And we always keep that at the register, so it's an easy, quick conversation. Oh, here you go, you need that for your meal.
Okay,
sort of
and then same with breakfast.
Same with breakfast, yeah. It's a little, the components are a little different because we don't require a vegetable, so it's to serve at breakfast. So if they have a cereal and a milk, it's here's your fruit.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
And then pertaining to food waste, thanks for your continued efforts there. I'm wondering if food packaging is part of that, because I know at Central, the PAC has some program where they're trying to collect like certain yogurt containers, lids.
Right. Well, for instance, there is a lot of compostable materials that we end up, putting in our food waste barrel or compostable barrel. So we collect trays. The trays are compostable. Some bowls are. Some utensils are. Things along those lines. As far as anything else, it depends if it's recyclable or not. We usually check them. I'll check with the kitchen staff, but it's either recyclable or trash, or there's a chance that it's made out of compostable materials that could be composted as well.
Okay, thank you. And the utensils, are they plastic?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. Any thought about using like wooden utensils?
Yeah, we've had conversations before. We've
Yeah, we attempted, and I believe it was last year, the supply was challenging, so we would at one point have all the compostable stuff. He was teaching the kids to compost, and then we would get shorted on the supplies and they'd sub for regular stuff. So he was dealing with, no, this time it's plastic, no, this time it's compostable. And it kind of made it a little chaotic. So we switched to the plastic. It is a lot cheaper. It's significantly a lot cheaper. So that's just the biggest challenge when it comes to the containers we use. We've slowly, as we've gotten to this point, gotten rid of a lot of the things that we shouldn't be using. We no longer have styrofoam, anything. But the utensils have always been a challenge for us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. What's a meat alternate?
Great question. It's basically anything that's not from a cow or a chicken body part. Like a milk or yogurt is a meat alternate because it's not the meat of. So it's basically a vegetarian option. So
Okay.
the veggie burger is a meat alternate.
And how do you feel about the changes in the rules on the milk?
I think it adds a little bit of confusion, unnecessarily. I think that if you want to drink whole milk, you should. And if you think your child could use the extra calories, then you should advocate for that. But I don't think the American population needs another way to increase their saturated fat. I think the 1% is just fine. But again, if you're one of those students that could use a little extra calories in your day for various reasons, then definitely whole milk is perfectly fine.
I'm glad I went to school when I did. The meatball subs were great.
The meatball subs are still great.
Maybe a question for Finbar. What's the contamination rate on the composting? I mean, is it,
Well, it's significantly lower, once we get to, being there a lot and training the students and whatnot. If we just throw the barrels in there any random day, it's going to be terrible. But for instance, at the middle schools, for instance, when we wrapped up at Atlantic Middle School, I was able to fully teach the students and train them in the way that there really wasn't any contamination at all. Students took their time at the barrels to make sure that they were separating it properly. So it depends. I would say the most part, on average, it would be about 80% correct. But again, you're going to have students always that are zoned out that might make a mistake and aren't going to go after and reach in the barrel. So the big thing that we emphasize passing off the school is that we have someone there to make sure after each lunch, check the barrels for contaminants, and that's one of the main
how strict
roles.
is the company? Like if stuff gets through?
Very strict.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll if they see trash in there, they won't pick up the barrel.
okay.
So, but it's not something that we don't have to really deal with, which is great.
Mrs. Cahill?
I didn't recognize you with the mustache and the beard when you were sitting there.
Nice to see you.
You too. I think what I like, when I volunteered a couple of times at Quincy and at North, and we talked about having the younger kids getting involved so that, because they're more engaged in trying something new like that, And what I think is going to be a successful is having them start at the middle school, so then when they get to the high school, they're already into that mindset of doing it, Watching the kids in the high school, in the beginning, when the program was starting, they were just like, yeah, I got to get out of here, and just throwing stuff in the barrels. And talking about putting your hand in the barrel to take out something, you would do it all the time. But I love the fact that you're going into the middle school so that it will translate, as they get higher into the high schools and stuff. I think you'll be more successful with the program.
Right, thank you. I'm excited to see what happens being in Broadmeadows this year and going into potentially another middle school that where most of the students will go to Quincy High, because when we started with the freshmen this year, I talked to who's at North Quincy High, and I was like, how were the freshmen? It's like a lot of them, knew what they were doing because I was at Atlantic last year.
Exactly, yeah.
And then at Quincy High, I was like, any luck with, and not too much, because not too many students from Atlantic
They've
go to
already
Quincy
been
High.
exposed to it, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great move. Yeah, but thank you.
Well, thank you both. I doubt Mrs. Lebo's watching, but I know Emily was so involved in this program, Finbar. I just want to give her a shout out. because she
Yeah,
really got us going.
Yeah, absolutely. Emily Lebo was great in this, and Ruth Davis has also been a big help in the program, and so shout out to both of them.
Great. Excellent. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Pimba.
Thank
Nice
you.
job. New business item B, DC District Review Preliminary Information. Dr. Perkins to present.
Hello. Let's see if I can. Okay, well, thank you for having me. I just wanted to update you on where we are in terms of the district review. So we completed the district review, as the superintendent had mentioned in his superintendent's remarks at a previous meeting. But we have since received, and you all have a copy of the observation summary report that they provided to us. And we also had a debrief phone call with the Department of Ed. So there's multiple steps. This is still the beginning steps. There will be like a comprehensive report that will be provided at the end of the review that will incorporate all of these things, and we will have a chance to make any factual corrections. So, but right now they shared the observation feedback, and they also shared high-level themes with us. And so I just wanted to go over the observation summary report. So the observations were completed by 7 different observers over a 2-week period, beginning the week of January 28th. Some of you may remember that we had quite a snowy week, and so we did have to reschedule many of the observations. So that did complicate things, but we did our best and we got them done. So the observers completed 144 observations that occurred across all 19 schools, including the RDLC. And I think we figure that this is probably about 10% maybe of our classrooms within the district. And the primary focus was on literacy, English language arts, and mathematics. They did not go to any special education classrooms, any EL classrooms. They rarely went to social studies or science classrooms. And they only went really to different classrooms if there was something going on, like there was a test in the English classroom, then they might go to the science room. They spent a half day at the majority of the schools, with the exception of the 2 high schools where they spent a full day each. The class observation tool was used to guide the observations. So just as a reminder, the pre-K to 3 protocol includes 10 dimensions, which we'll talk about, related to 3 domains. And the domains are emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support. And the upper elementary and secondary protocols include 11 classroom dimensions related to 3 domains: emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support, in addition to student engagement. I will say, I do think that one of the best decisions that we did fight the fight for, and we were able to do, was that we had our leadership team escort the observers, because they are not quarried or fingerprinted with us. And so we escorted them around. And so we did get a pretty good sense, and I'm sure that Gail has, from the QEA, has also heard some feedback on the observers. The observers did not have a background in education. The majority of them, it was their first job out of college. So they had participated in a 2-day training, and that was it. And so I do just want to point that out, because I personally have a very hard time with that level of educational experience, evaluating teachers in many cases who have been with us for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And they're making these judgment calls on the quality of our educators. So I just wanted to say that, because it bothered us, and I'm sure it bothered the teachers as well. So just in terms of, this is just a picture of what the different dimensions and domains are, what makes up emotional support, what makes up, some of it, the classroom organization and instructional support. And we'll talk about each one of them. So this is just an overall picture of the scores that we received, and they do take the aggregate of all of the scores and they put them together and they create the report. So in order to kind of figure out where we fall, so a score of a 6 or a 7 is considered to be in the high range, which is a good thing. A middle range is 3, 4, or 5, and a low range is a 1 or 2. I do just want to point out also that I did look at other reports from Chelsea, Fall River, Taunton, and Quincy has scored is higher than these schools, these districts in almost every area. Some areas, a few, we were the same, but the majority of the areas we were actually higher than. So emotional support, we received scores that were considered mid-range. Classroom organization was definite strength for us, and we received scores across the board that were in the high range. Instructional support, we received scores that were in the lower mid-range, and student engagement was in the upper mid-range. And I will just say it's interesting to know, as the superintendent mentioned, he and I were at the board meeting for the Department of Early Education and Care, and they use the class tool as part of their protocol. And in their report, the instructional domain was the lowest. And they said that is historically accurate, that for whatever reason, the instructional domain across the board is always the lowest score in the class observation report. And so then when I came back, of course, I did some research on it, and that is the case. And so just to go through how we did in the different areas, in positive climate, we did pretty well. We were middle to high. And this basically looks at the emotional connection between the teacher and students and among the students, and the warmth, respect, and enjoyment communicated by verbal and nonverbal interactions. And so what they're looking for, according to my research, I've never administered the class protocol, but according to my research, they're looking for teachers that share a warm and supportive relationship with their students. In terms of teacher sensitivity, this was another relative strength for us. We received an overall rating of 6.2, which is in the high range. And so this encompasses the teacher's awareness of and responsiveness to students' academic and emotional needs. There's high levels of sensitivity and facilitate students' ability to actively explore and learn because the teacher consistently provides comfort, reassurance, and encouragement. And so they're looking to see that the teachers are aware of the students and their needs, and that how they support that is consistent and accurate in the classroom. So regard for student perspective was one of our lower scores. And I do just want to point out, I do feel that, personally, I feel that many of these scores contradict each other. So when you have, the previous score, teacher sensitivity is relatively high, and then the regard for student perspectives is lower, but yet the description in the teacher sensitivity would lead you to believe that they're considering students' perspectives. So I do think that some of these things contradict each other. So regard for student perspective captures the degree to which teachers' interactions with students and classroom activities place an emphasis on students' interests, motivations, and points of view, and encourage student responsibility and autonomy. And what they're looking for here, which I also think, I don't find it surprising that they would not see it, because I think educators are nervous when people come into their classroom that they don't know, and that they know it's a part of a district review, which is a big thing for an educator. They're looking at a teacher's willingness, or that they demonstrate a willingness to follow student interests and needs rather than their pre-planned agenda. So basically, they're looking to see that if a student brings something up, the teacher's going to switch their lesson plan and respond to the student needs, which I can pretty much guarantee no educator is going to do that when they're getting observed. They're probably going to panic that the student is going down a rabbit hole and that they, need to bring them back. And so, so that was regard for student perspectives. Negative climate was a strength for us, which does not surprise me at all. So in this instance, they do inverse the scores, so they reverse them. So higher is good. So we want higher scores. So just so you know that means they did not see any examples of negative climate. So that was a strength for us. And behavior management refers to the teacher's ability to provide clear behavioral expectations and use effective methods to prevent and redirect misbehavior. This was another strength for us. In this domain, they are looking for proactive management of behaviors, clear behavioral expectations, that the teacher uses proactive strategies, sets clear expectations, and minimizes disruptions rather than just reacting. And so this was a definite strength for us. Productivity was also a strength for us. It was one of the highest rated dimensions across all grade bands. Productivity considers how well the teacher manages instructional time and routines and provides activities for students so that they have the opportunity to be involved in the learning activities, which again, I think is contradictory to some of the other things that I just said. And so high productivity is indicated when students are actively involved and engaged in the learning process, which definitely contradicts some of the ones I'm going to talk about in a minute. So this indicates that classrooms run very smooth and teachers are prepared for their lessons. Teachers provide a steady flow of activities for students so students do not have downtime and are not confused about what to do next. Classroom routines are efficient and all students know how to move from one activity to another and where the materials are. So instructional learning formats is the next one. And so this refers to the ways in which the teacher maximizes student interest, engagement, and abilities to learn from the lesson and activities. And we did pretty well here. We were middle range, in some cases on the higher end of the middle range. And so they're looking to see that teachers are incorporating varying modalities within their lessons, that they're providing hands-on opportunities, clear learning goals. I will point out that in my research on the class observation tool, this one specifically said it's supposed to be calibrated over multiple observations. And that was the case in a couple of areas. And this was a 15 to 20 minute observation one time and one time only. And I should have said this probably at the beginning, that because something doesn't show up on this report or receives a lower score does not mean that our teachers do not do it. It means that the observers did not see it in that moment and snapshot in time. So concept development. Concept development refers to the teacher's use of instructional discussions and activities to promote students' higher order thinking skills and cognition, and the teacher's focus on understanding rather than on rote instruction. This one, we scored a lower on this area, and what they're looking for is that the questions that teachers are asking are prompt students to analyze information, connects concepts to previously learned material, integrates different concepts into the learning. So, pulling something from science maybe into an ELA lesson, something like that. That they use open-ended questions to guide discussion. And I can say personally, this is a pre-K to 3 only dimension. I can say personally that I have seen this happening in all of the classrooms that I've observed in, and I've observed in pretty much every building. I have observed in every building across our city. Content understanding. Content understanding refers to the depth of the lesson, the content, and the approaches used to help students comprehend the framework, key ideas, and procedures in an academic discipline. At a high level, this dimension refers to interactions among teachers and students that lead to an integrated understanding of facts, skills, concepts, and principles. And we had some variability here. We were middle range with a little bit of a higher score in 6 to 8. And it's looking for, the teachers focus on analyzing, reasoning, again, connecting concepts to their own lives, instructional discussions that promote analysis and reasoning. And analysis and inquiry was probably our lowest area. They did tell us in our debrief call that this is the lowest area across the board in all of the district reviews that they do using the class observation tool, that this is a really tough area. And the reason for it is because analysis and inquiry assesses the degree to which students are engaged in higher level thinking skills through their application of knowledge and skills to novel and or open-ended problems, tasks, and questions. And opportunities for engaging in metacognition are also included. And so again, when I was looking into this a little bit, this is an area that it's a very complex area. It's asking students to do a lot and teachers to do a lot, and it's not something that you would necessarily sustain all day long. And so depending on the moment that they come in, and I do also think that, again, there's an element of when an outside person is in your classroom, you're going to try to keep it tight and controlled, and you want to make sure that the kids are perfect. Even though we all understand that kids say silly things, things happen when you're in classrooms. Everybody understands that, but I think that the teachers take great pride in that, and so when they have an observer coming into their classroom, they want their kids to act a certain way, and they want to keep the lesson as controlled as they can. And so I will just say, in this one, this was really interesting because they did tell us in our debrief phone call that in the student focus group, so we had a middle school student focus group and a high school student focus group. So in contrast, during student focus groups at the middle and high school level, students reported that teachers across subject areas expect them to explain their thinking, for example, by showing their work when solving a math or a physics problem or explaining their reasoning for a response in English class. So when they put this together in the big report that we will get, they will not be able to triangulate this data because they have kids who are saying, yes, this does happen, and a 15, 20-minute observation that is saying they didn't see it. So the kids are reporting that it actually does happen. So the quality of feedback was in the middle range. So the quality of feedback refers to the degree to which teacher provides feedback that expands learning and understanding and encourages continued participation in the learning activity. In the upper elementary and secondary classrooms, significant feedback also may be provided by peers. Regardless of the source, the focus of feedback motivates the learning. And so in this one, they're looking for educators to encourage students to keep trying, assist in understanding the concepts without simply providing the answer. And in this area, I do think some of our new curriculum materials are absolutely going to help with this because the teacher, in Desmos and in IM and in CKLA, the teacher is more of the facilitator. And so I do think we have things in place where these are things that we are working on. Language modeling was middle. And so language modeling refers to the quality and amount of teachers' use of language, simulation, and language facilitation techniques. Again, this is another one that said that it's supposed to be done over 4 observations, and it was only done once. So the frequency, depth, and effectiveness of the conversation is what they're looking at. Frequent conversations that include open-ended questions, repetition, extension, parallel talk, and advanced language use is some of the things that they're looking for in this standard, for this dimension. Instructional dialogue was also a middle score. Instructional dialogue captures the purposeful use of content-focused discussion among teachers and students that is cumulative, with the teacher supporting students to chain ideas together in ways that lead to deeper understanding of content. Students take an active role in these dialogues, and both the teacher and the students use strategies that facilitate extended dialogue. So this is looking at how educators question and then follow up to encourage communication. And student engagement was a relative strength, at higher than some of the other areas, which again, some of the other areas said that the student engagement was not seen, and here it's a higher score. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but student engagement refers to the extent to which all students in the class are focused and participating in the learning activity that is presented or facilitated by the teacher. The difference between passive engagement and active engagement is reflected in this rating. So this directly, I would say, even though this is a higher score, I think that it does contradict the productivity score, because the productivity score also takes into consideration student engagement, and that was our highest score. We were, in the high sixes, and this one it's a 5.2. So I don't understand how those two things correlate. So it looks for time on task, participation rates, actively engaged students versus students kind of just passively sitting there. So here is just a summary by grade band for each of the dimensions. You can just see the breakdown. This is the pre-K to 5. And this is the 6 to 8 breakdown. And this is am I in the 9 to 12? The 9 to 12. So just a quick summary of our debrief call, because this was only one component of what the district review looked at. It was massive. It was all encompassing. It looked at HR practices, budget practices, curriculum practices, as well as observing the teachers, as I said. And so they shared just some higher level themes with us. So just to share with you, kind of the direction and the things that we can expect to see in the comprehensive report. So in the area of leadership and governance, this was a strength for us, and a very positive theme that came out of the district review. So they informed us that we have, which I think we knew, but that we have strong collaborative relationships among district leaders and you all, the school committee, and the municipal officials, with all groups describing close coordination on budgeting, planning to support the schools. The mayor's position as the chair of the school committee contributes to the collaboration and alignment of work between the district and the municipality, which I think we all see that in how well our schools are taken care of, and the facilities, and the things that we're able to do in the district. And that the QPS leadership team was another strength, that because we demonstrate strong longevity, with many district and school leaders having advanced through internal promotion, was also a strength for the district. And then in terms of curriculum and instruction, there were some strengths and some areas of focus, which were not surprises to us at all. We had already identified these areas as areas that we know are kind of on our list to address. So many elementary and middle school, we know that we just adopted brand new programs, and they are aligned to Ed Reports and Curate. In particular, the elementary ELA and math curricula meet expectations. They're very highly rated on Ed Reports and Curate, which we knew. And then middle school ELA is an area of focus, which we had already identified. We did math this year. Next year, we will focus on ELA. And so we use currently collections, which is pretty old, and it partially meets expectations in Ed Reports. So it's an area that we'll start working on next year once our teachers get used to the math program. And Desmos is very highly rated on Ed Reports and Curate, so we knew that. At the high school levels, an area that they, highlighted, again, that we knew is that most curricula is teacher developed, with the exception of Amplify Desmos, which is also used in ninth grade. But a strength was that teachers across the departments from both high schools have engaged in the curriculum mapping process. So although the materials are teacher created, the district has been taking a really strong initiative to align across both schools, across content areas, and provide up-to-date curriculum maps with the input from our teachers. So that was viewed as a strength. And then another strength for us was our assessment process. That was a big strength, and they told us that many schools do not have this in place. Many districts do not have this in place. We've had it in place forever. Thank you to Mary Frederickson. And so the district and school staff reported using a range of academic data sources to inform instruction. School staff and leaders reported having time allocated to analyze data. We have, as you know, 3 assessment days. We have student support team meetings and ILT meetings very frequently. And in many cases, the SST meetings are once a week. ILTs anywhere from 3 times a year to 6 times a year. And the district has focused another highlight and a strength for us, which we were very proud of, was that the district has focused closely on monitoring attendance data, and as part of a district-wide attendance initiative called Attendance Matters, which obviously we love, and that the QPS chronic absenteeism rate for 2024-2025 was 15.6%, and nearly a 5-point improvement since 22-23. So something that we're very, very proud of. And then next steps, as I mentioned at the beginning, they'll continue to analyze the data that we provided, which was just tons and tons of documents. And they will triangulate and identify strengths and areas for growth. So they'll provide us with some more recommendations and also some additional strengths. They will write a report. We'll have another findings call. They'll share a draft report with us, and we'll have an opportunity to provide any factual corrections that we need to make. And then the report will be provided to you. We'll, share that with you and present on that. And it will be publicly posted on our website and on the Department of Education website. And that, in a nutshell, is where we are with the district review, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. Any questions? Mrs. Campbell?
Dr. Perkins, I use, as part of Department of Early Care and Ed for my program, we use class all the time, and it feels challenging if the protocols aren't followed, the 15-minute cycles aren't followed. It's hard. It must be hard for your educators to sort of look at this and know that process wasn't there for them, because concept development pieces are so hard to capture if you're only in there for 15 minutes, and those are generally the most complicated pieces to score, right? And as someone who's gone through the rigors of being certified, the class of being able to come out and do class observations, it's generally a steep lift, so it's a little disappointing to hear that those coming out didn't have that piece. But I still say, wow, this is genuinely very positive. You look for scores that are in the high 5s to the 7s. And so there may be some smaller pieces, and maybe that don't generally feel like you are at a higher bar. So overall, some of this stuff is just really good data.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I was wondering. I know your background, so I was wondering if that was the tool that you use, and so I do appreciate you sharing that. And I think we in general feel like this went really well.
Yeah.
And so so we're very happy with our teachers, with the report, and I really appreciate you sharing that.
That's it. Mrs. Cahill?
So a little bit, again, I think we talked before about, it's a little bit of a snapshot in time, right? If you can clarify. So it's a 2-week period. They were in how many schools?
They were in
9?
all 19 schools.
All 19 schools. Half a day was the norm,
Right.
And how many classes did they go into in that half-a-day period? in a
Between
building?
5 and 6 in a half a day. So depending on the size of the school, at the middle school, they went into 6. At the elementaries, primarily 5. And then the high schools, they were there for the day. So
the
I
day.
think they did around maybe 10 or 11 observations.
And each observation was about 15 minutes?
15
in
to
a
20
class?
minutes, yeah.
Did we determine what classrooms they were going to go into? Or did
No.
they just randomly pick
They
where they were
randomly
going to go?
picked. We gave them a schedule, which is what they initially wanted to do, was that we would give them the schedule of the classes, so they would have that predetermined. And they do have backup classes in case a teacher is out or a class is giving an assessment or something like that. And so they basically said, you're going to give us the schedule, and we'll say, bye, see ya, and then they'll kind of go on their way. And we said, no, you can't do that. You're not fingerprinted and quarried with us. We're not going to do that. And so after we had multiple meetings with them, we did finally come to an agreement that we would escort them. So people from our team and the curriculum and assessment team and the superintendent's leadership team were with them the entire time.
Okay. And then the other thing, I mean, I think we have to take this with a grain of salt, only because of to your point, we're having people without an academic background assessing our staff and curriculum. And I find that, for me, I have more confidence, and I am confident in your evaluations, continuous throughout a year and over years, on our staff and our curriculum and how we build things, So I don't know how, I guess it's a tool to look at, but I don't know how much stock I'd put into the recommendations if they're not coming from someone with the background that, when I had the interview with them and we talked about a new hire, they were asking us about budget. And the young girl that was in the interview didn't even know how our budgets work. Like, I basically had to explain the different components and where budgets come from in the district. So to me, that's like a difficult conversation to have how are they going to assess what we're doing without the background,
Right.
So I guess I just had a little bit of a concern about the short amount of time they spend evaluating a staff member and also their background in academics or, curriculum or budget or HR. So I would just take this, I'm curious to see what the end result's going to be, when we get the full report.
Right, and the statute is written to say that it will be conducted by a person with an educational background. That is what the statute says. However, that was not what we experienced.
Okay. It's just a comment on my behalf. Thank you.
You made that very clear, Dr. Perkins.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cahill. Mrs. Pretios?
Thank you. Thank you for presenting this. I am similar to my colleagues. I'm grateful for the current relationship that the QEA and the educators have with the SLT and you specifically, and just and Mr. Marani, and just going into the schools and our teachers. We know our teachers. We know that they're excellent. So I wasn't looking for this as an evaluation or to give us more information than we didn't already know. I think where the strengths and potential weaknesses are, and I think you're always working on it, as Mrs. Cahill said. So that's kind of how I took this to be, and hearing that they didn't have the background we would have preferred them to have was just even more, kind of led to my feeling. I was curious, though, why is it bad that that teachers create material? Why do they want to have to use like a Desmos, and why were we given a negative score? Because, we're not trusting our teachers to use the background and the training and all the education they've had to create curriculum to get the standards across to our kids. I feel like that's always what they used to do when I was a kid, right? So why is that looked at as so negative now?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And I don't personally view it as negative at all. But that will probably be a recommendation to us, is to look at the high school curriculum and looking at, high quality curriculum materials. And the reason for that, usually is because it's because of equity, amongst teachers, right, and amongst students. So if I have a teacher in one building or in one grade level and, you know, they're teaching this way, and then I have this other person, you know, that might be teaching a different way or providing different materials, maybe not as rigorous, you know, maybe not as high quality. Like, that's how they're looking at it. I'm a huge believer in teacher autonomy, and I think our teachers are very talented at the high school level. And I also know that going in, and I'm sure as a former high school teacher, Gail can totally attest to this, that that would not go over well with our high school educators if we were trying to change their curriculum. But they view that as, because they want scripted programs. Because that controls for teachers, really, you know, and so that's what they want. They want scripted curricula that can, you know, prevent issues from happening, or some kids getting one thing and another group of kids not getting something. But we have curriculum maps. That's why we have curriculum maps, you know, and we cover the standards. And I feel absolutely confident that our teachers do a phenomenal job and cover everything they need to cover.
I totally agree. And I think it's working fine the way it is. And I'm sure you address it if there's, you know, you look at the outcomes, right?
We do.
And if there's a class that is consistently not doing well, I mean, that's how you would find that out and address that problem, right? So I think that I agree with you on that, and I'm glad to hear you read it like that. Did the educators know these specific areas they were going to be evaluated on before the observers came?
We did. I provided to all the principals the like dimensions, the
Yeah.
list that said, you know, like emotional support, and it said like what the different things were. I also shared it with Gail. Gail was with me on the call with AIR, the consultants. She and I did it together, where they told us how the observations were going to go, what they were going to be looking at. So she actually was with me on the call when we found out what was going to happen.
Gotcha. And then I think my last question was, and then I just had one kind of thought, but did they go to all the levels at the high school? Did they go, or even the middle school? Did they go to some advanced classes? Did they go to AP classes? They went to all the different levels?
So they went to whatever was available at the time, which meant that it could have been an advanced, it could have been a CCP, it could have been, you know, any one of them. They, you know, they didn't discriminate, so they saw a wide breadth of classes.
Okay, because I would tend to think that some of that would actually factor in, like some of those classes, they're a little more built for having a little more, like, you can go down a rabbit hole a little bit more because that's what that class is designed for, right? Or that level might be designed to encourage that, where maybe a different level isn't. So
Right.
that wasn't even really addressed in here either, which was frustrating. Did you know, so you get the numbers of each, like the instances of each, but did you know like which school got which
Nope,
number? So you just
no.
got the
You just
collective
did,
data?
yep, they just give you the aggregate. They don't tell you where or what grade level,
Okay,
you know,
that's probably
other,
better.
whatever, who it was or anything like that, no.
And my last comment was that I'm not surprised in the high teacher sensitivity scores and the high on the negative climate, but in a good way.
Yes.
Just, you know, every school, the teachers are doing just great work, you know, caring for the kids, making the kids feel valued. And we see that in the vocal survey. So, I mean, I wish that they would look at the vocal survey in conjunction with this, because a lot of that is the same. And so I'm just super proud of our teachers, and I hope they're not feeling like this is a negative reflection on them. So, and thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Leung.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Perkins, for taking us through this debrief data. I can read survey data and tables as well as anyone, but your context and analysis make this actually meaningful. I mean, dare I say, it wouldn't be useful without the context and analysis that you've added, right? So just watching you and hearing you kind of, you know, link the different topics together, provide nuance, mentioning the additional research you did into the tools, super impressive. So all that is to say, I'm glad it's you that,
Yeah.
you know, is getting this data and acting upon it. My question / comment is related to kind of the, I would call second order effects right? So, for example, the part about the negativity scores, almost perfect scores, right?
Right.
That's interesting. What's more interesting to me, though, is your comment that you were not surprised by that, right? Because
Right.
maybe that is something that has just been emphasized throughout the district with your educators. So I'm wondering if there are other things in here that surprise you, and you may have already touched upon some of those. If so, that's
No,
fine.
I think
but-
that's a really good question. And so, I think that the analysis and inquiry surprised me. That definitely surprised me, because and Mr. Marani is behind me and he can attest to this. We have done collaborative observations with principals. We were just at Point Webster the other day with all of the middle school principals in 2 of our math classes. We went to Broad Meadows and we were in history classes. We went to Atlantic, and we were in science classes observing Open SciEd lessons with all of our middle school principals together. And we've done the same thing at the elementary level, in addition to just the observations that Mr. Marani and I have done in every single school, including the high school across our district. We have observed in many, many classes, and I have seen the analysis and inquiry in action in every single one of our schools. So I don't know if the teachers were just nervous when they came in, and they were, but I definitely, or it was just bad observers, which could absolutely, I'd go with that before, anything to do with our staff, but so I absolutely, so some of those areas that were like a little bit lower, I've seen the teachers doing it. I have absolutely seen the teachers doing it. So, so I think that, that kind of surprised me. I was not surprised by the fact that we have really positive climate in our classrooms. I wasn't surprised at all by the productivity, because when I go into classrooms, our teachers are well planned, the kids are engaged, and if there are kids who are struggling, we know about those students. We're working with that staff. They're reaching out. We're helping. We're supporting. So I was not surprised at all about the positive things. I see some of those things. I think that if they had the opportunity, as Ms. Campbell said, to do multiple observations, which is how the tool is actually supposed to be used over time. If you'd done 4 or 5 observations and then you kind of aggregated all of that data, I think we would have seen a very different picture. And I don't think that what we saw was bad at all. I really don't. And I'm very, very proud of our teachers, because this was a big inconvenience and very disruptive, to their day, and stressful. And so I'm very proud of how they performed and how the things went. But those would be the areas.
Great, thank you.
Mrs. Cahill.
I think to your point, too, about the observers, if they're not trained, how do they know what they're, how can they really be focused on what they're supposed to be rating us on, basically, assessing us or evaluating us, if they don't even really have the skill set or the experience to know what to assess?
Right. Well, they have a training. From what I understand from the AIR people, it's a 2-day training that they receive, and so they do have a training. However, and then they're given basically like a checklist, and there's things, and I'm sure Ms. Campbell, you could probably speak better to it than I could, because I've never used it before, but they're given basically like a checklist, and they look for different things. They time things, how many times a teacher interacts with students, or how many times, students are participating, or are they sitting there passively, like over a 5-minute period, or so I think they do things like that. But there's so many nuances
Yeah.
to classroom instruction.
Yeah,
So,
Anyway, yeah.
So yes.
okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Perkins.
Thank you.
Another great presentation.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item C, new business, QPS policies, practices regarding access to student information. We're referring this to the policy subcommittee. brought in by Mr. Leung. Question by Mrs. Pretios?
Would we be able to have that policy meeting that topic is at be a meeting of the whole, please, so that we could all hear that presentation,
I don't see why not.
that discussion? Thank you.
Okay, under the consent agenda, any questions on the items in the consent agenda? They'll pretty much speak for themselves. Seeing no questions, wait, can I get a motion? Motion by Mrs. Cahill, second by Mrs. Campbell. Superintendent, please call the roll.
Mr. Begoli, Mrs. Cahill? Yes. Ms. Campbell? Mr. Leon?
Yes.
Mrs. Perdios?
Yes.
And Mayor Koch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no additional business, item 8, communications, upcoming school committee meetings, March 25th, April 8th, May 6th and 20th, and June 10th, all at 6:30 here at the Cardington. Also upcoming subcommittee meetings, March 18th, athletics and wellness, special education, and March 25th, policies. So that would be the meeting we're going to take up. The item we brought in tonight?
We're not sure if it will be on that agenda or one after that.
Is this for athletics?
No, the policy subcommittee. Well, the item we put into policy subcommittee tonight, go into that one.
It would
Okay.
not be at the next policy meeting, because the next policy meeting is going to take up the school year calendar.
Gotcha. All right. So subsequent to that,
Correct.
it will make it a committee of the whole
Yes.
for that meeting. Okay.
And can I say one other thing? The athletics subcommittee is going to be rescheduled
Okay.
due to the athletic director's availability, so that's going to be pushed out.
All right.
Are we still having this special ed?
I believe, yes.
Okay, next item is item 9, reports of subcommittees. We had our budget meeting, it kind of spoke for itself. We're pretty much close to on target. We're watching some things that get through the end of the fiscal year, and then, of course, there may be some items we learned from for the new budget. So with that, I think those minutes are online, so people can look at that. Next item, executive session. There's no need for an executive session. I'll accept the motion for adjournment. Motion's been made. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.